Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Maggie, and welcome to the Debrief. This is the podcast where Mike and Maggie discuss the top stories in politics, sports, and pop culture to get to the truth and make sense of the headlines. Now, Mike, I think you have some follow ups from our last episode.
Yeah, in the last episode, I mentioned we're worried that President Trump is not getting all the truthful information about what's happening in the war. And Woodrow Wilson was the president during World War I over 100 years ago. He had a catastrophic stroke in October of 2019. His wife, Edith, and a couple of doctors basically sequestered him basically for the remainder of his presidency. About a year and a half. Warren Harding took over in March of 1921. There was in those days the inauguration didn't happen until March, and Harding took over then. So for about a year and a half, Edith Wilson was effectively the president of the United States. She was in complete control over what her husband saw and who saw him. So her and a couple doctors were basically running the country there for a year and a half. So.
Wow.
And the second thing is the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is the aircraft carrier group, which has been in the Middle East since the beginning of in the Middle East since the beginning of the war, is now heading back to port. I had mentioned last episode that there were 3 carrier groups in the region, which is kind of unprecedented. But apparently the Ford is heading back to port, so now we're back to 2, which is a little more normal. There were various issues with the Ford. Some people think there's been some sabotage by the sailors. Some people think it got hit by a missile. But either way, it's been out to sea for over a year, which is a very long deployment, and it's heading back to port. So there's only 2 there. I just wanted to make a correction on that.
Okay. Very cool. So today we are starting again with our topic on, of course, the Iran war.
Yeah, so we finally got some numbers from the CFO of the Defense Department. I forget the guy's name, but we've now spent $25 billion in 2 months. So I'll let you decide whether it's worth it or if that's too much.
I think that's really understated, isn't it?
Well,
Everybody is saying that it's like probably half as much as what it really is.
I frankly don't trust. I trust hardly anything, any data that comes out of this administration. So if there's a groundswell that this is really twice as expensive or something, I'd buy it for sure. I'm just telling you what the guy said.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I don't really pay much attention to what any of the cabinet members say to Congress. It's all just them being disrespectful, and there's nothing that I see coming out of any of this stuff.
Yeah, and they're probably performing for Mr. Trump as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. They're not. You'd think that these people would be speaking to the elected officials and to the American people, but no, they are speaking to an audience of one, which
Right.
and anybody who wants to keep their job, that's all they care about. You'd think they would have some self-respect to begin with. Anyway, I am not sure that anything that came out other than what the CFO report said. Anything that Hicks has said to Congress.
Right.
So some follow-up on the war. So a lot of folks are worried about that the president has gone to war without the authorization of Congress. We did a little research, and according to the 1973 War Powers Act, he does have 60 days. He can go to war for 60 days before he has to get authorized. And that day is tomorrow. We're recording this on May 1st, Friday. And I think May 2nd is the 60-day. So I don't know exactly what has to happen or what's going to happen. But the president can't go to war for basically 2 months without any authorization, which he has done.
Right. So I think what happened like literally hours ago is that Trump sent a letter today to Congress saying that we're not actually at war technically because there's a ceasefire. So he's saying that he doesn't need to get authorization.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me a bit.
Right.
If there's any, I'm frankly horrified by the Trump administration, both of them. Well, maybe not so much the first administration, but this current one for sure. And you and I have spoken numerous times about is this showing the weakness of our system or is it showing the strength of our system? You got to give Trump credit that he will push every boundary
That's true.
that is possible. And
Mhm.
I frankly, well, I'm not
Well,
happy.
he's
I'll
showing
be
us where the cracks are, where the holes
showing us.
are, right?
Right. I work in software and I know that you hire hackers to attack your own system. They're called white hat. The black hat hackers try to ruin your system. White hat hackers try to find your problems and give you a report about where you need to be fixed. So I
Mm.
might consider Trump to be a white hat hacker on our system. And he's basically showing us the weaknesses. And I think I've mentioned this before that
Yeah.
so much of our system is just based on honor and tradition
Tradition, yeah,
and standard, not actual law.
right,
So the ceasefire that we have, is there anything written down? Is it an official document? I doubt it.
right.
And so his little minions that he works with are scurrying away, and they're coming up with, "Oh, we're on a ceasefire. That means we're on a break." It's kind of like, what's the deal? It's like I
Yeah,
could
let's
cheat on you. We were on a break.
go to Disneyland, have a little
Oh
vacation.
yeah, yeah, you cheated on me, honey. He's like, no, we were on a break. So apparently the ceasefire is a break. Okay, that doesn't surprise me a bit. I'm just telling you what the
Jimmy
War
Kimmel's
Powers
gonna
Act
use
says.
that line tonight now, you know?
Jimmy, if you steal my line,
You're reporting it to the FCC. I'm kidding, I'm
I'm gonna
kidding.
report you to the FCC, Jimmy, if you steal my joke. Anyway, let's see. Let's get on with the war here. So the Iran is now charging about $1 million per ship. I still never can quite figure out whether the Strait of Hormuz is closed or open, but apparently ships are getting out if they pay $1 million, or and that is actually not in U.S. dollars. They're now accepting Chinese yuan, the Russian ruble, Indian rupee. So their petrodollar system is collapsing, which is not good for us.
Mm,
So stuff is getting out, or ships are getting out, but not quite at the pace that they and a lot of these ships are just going through the U.S. blockade. I also think I had read that maybe 50 or so Iranian tankers got out and just kind of waltzed past the blockade.
really?
Yeah, so
But I heard that Trump say that it was the best blockade, that nothing's getting through, but apparently that's not
the
true.
big beautiful blockade.
Yeah, really.
We had the big beautiful bill. It's a big beautiful blockade. Yeah, I don't. It's some stuff is getting out, but not anywhere near as much as free flowing as it was. So there's still going to be a major effect on the economy coming up here. You know, now Europe is now actively saying the things out loud that they used to only say behind closed doors. Now, the German chancellor has now said that the U.S. is humiliated. You know, this is something you would say behind closed doors on a phone call, and now he's saying it in a speech. French president saying that the U.S., China, and Russia are now actively trying to mess with Europe. So some of the stuff coming out of Europe is starting to get more heated.
Mm,
You've got Israel is now arming the UAE. The UAE has left OPEC and looks like they are going to side with America and Israel in all of this. And I think Dubai is in the United Arab Emirates, right? So that got
mhm.
kind of demolished. So I guess I can't blame them for that. But the United Arab Emirates did have an American base there, but they've left OPEC and they are now actively working with Israel and then probably America against. So that would be a third ally in that thing. Most of the other I can't quite tell where the other Gulf states are going, but if Iran has bombed them, they're probably not going to go with Iran. They're probably going to stick with Israel and
Right.
America. And what was the last thing? Oh yeah, and it just, I don't know this for sure, but we're pushing toward, I don't know, maybe 70,000 troops. We already had between 40 and 50,000 troops there. We've got maybe 6,000 Marines, maybe 4,000 from the 82nd Airborne. The numbers
Mhm.
are starting to add up.
Right.
Um, exactly. If we're gonna actually invade, I think. Well, I don't want to predict, but don't be surprised if we actually do invade. When it comes to Trump, I default to taco chickening out, and then The other thing would be just delay, 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 which is from your ceasefire news that would kind of go with that.
Right.
So actually invading would be a monster change. And so
Right.
I'm not gonna predict that, but we're starting to add up. The number of American troops in the area is starting to add up.
Right. Right. So I have a question for you. I did find some new polling. Apparently, after only 2 months, the Iran war is as unpopular as the Iraq War after 3 years and the Vietnam War after 6 years, which is pretty bad. And on top of that, I'll throw out one more number for you. The There was another poll by ABC and Ipsos, and apparently 61% of those polled feel that the terrorism risk against Americans has increased due to the war. And so I think, following up on what you said before, we feel less safe. And also 56 believe the war weakens our relationship with our allies, which is consistent with what you're reporting about, Europe and French and the German chancellor in France. So my question is, will American opinion about the war actually make any kind of, I guess, impact on Trump's decision to put troops on the ground, do you think?
I'm gonna say no. I don't think he cares. He cares about what will make him look good and not make him look bad. So, what does that mean? He can't care about the people. He wouldn't do what he has done
Mm,
if he cared about what people thought. And so, if you're a Trump supporter out there, you probably like that.
mm,
So, unless it turns into action, then it's meaningless, I think. So, what would be the action? I don't think anybody changes anything based on a polling number. The Republicans are firmly behind him, so there'll be no impeachment. He's not going to have a moment of clarity, an epiphany, if you will. That ain't going to happen.
mm.
He's not physically capable of that. He's not emotionally capable of that.
Right.
And he probably doesn't even know that. And even if he knew it, he would just say it's fake news and I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. You could see it. He just loves being large and in charge. And so I agree with your numbers, but you better get used
He
to
doesn't care.
yeah, he doesn't care. I can't see him having any moment of clarity or
No.
empathy or change of heart or anything. So, and this is his strength is we really don't know what he's gonna do. You and I are sitting around going, is he gonna attack? Are we gonna go boots on the ground? Are we gonna go nuclear?
Mhm.
Is he gonna just keep the ceasefire going? You know, and
Right.
I don't know. He loves this. He loves being unpredictable.
And he loves being talked about all the time.
Yeah, as long as they're
Good,
talking about me, it
bad.
doesn't matter.
Exactly. You got it. Yep. Yeah.
All right, well, enough. Yeah, and it's been kind of a stall now for was it 3 weeks?
Mm,
We've been at war for 8 weeks, ceasefire 3 weeks. Right. So, we'll see. Stuff's adding up. Well, still trying to figure out what the tripping point is. Oh, yeah, and Israel is still bombing Lebanon. So apparently, Lebanon doesn't count as far as a ceasefire.
Well, it feels like we're just in this area or this time of ambiguity and vagueness, and nobody knows what's going on. And you hear something, and it ends up not to be true. And then there's the stock market, and who the hell knows what that's reacting to. So there is just nothing certain anymore. And I can't help but think, but that is what is intended. The intent is to keep us in this state of uncertainty and not knowing what way is up.
Yeah, so if you think there's a plan to this, then that would be the plan to make us scared, make us nervous. And then let's say the midterms are coming around and he's going, we're at a state of war. The Iranians they're imminently going to do an attack on us. So we have to cancel the midterms and
Mm.
I have to implement martial law. So if you think there's a plan, and I don't think there's a plan in there, I think it's just chaos for the sake of
Is the
chaos.
plan. Yeah.
But if you think there is a plan, then it's gotta be the elections. It's gotta be a way to martial law. We're not gonna hold the midterms, and maybe that's the tripping point, where people get the pitchforks out and,
Mm.
start going. I don't know, but he's the king of chaos is absolutely true.
Right, and if he's creating chaos, if he's creating confusion, do people even know what they're fighting against or fighting for? If
Yeah.
you create that level of confusion and not knowing what way is up,
Mhm.
I just wonder if it's part of the whole,
Mhm.
plan,
I
which is to
yeah,
just create confusion and yeah.
yeah. I just know that I know my own thoughts are I am just so tired of having to think about Donald Trump every day.
I know,
And,
I
I
agree.
mean, just get this MFer out of my head for a day, and, I listen a lot to sports radio, and these guys are talking about who's the best 3rd pitcher for the Cubs or who the Bears drafted, and
Mhm.
I'm yelling at the radio going, "How can you talk about this?" And then I think for a minute, and I go, "I know exactly why they're because they don't wanna have to think about this other stuff."
It's a reprieve, it's a
Yeah,
balm, it's a nice diversion from,
right.
Trump, Trump, Trump.
Yeah, it's the end people that's a lot I just hear more and more people, I just a one day without some stupid thing he says, you know?
And not that this is a self-help show, but I know that I've taken to literally turning everything off.
Mhm.
Like, even on a Sunday, let that be the day of rest, seriously, and just no discussion, no TV, no podcasts, no news, just take a break, and go for a nice walk.
You can listen to our podcast on Sundays, but that's
Except for
it.
ours, yes. Alright, we got another topic on the economy, I see.
Yeah, so I saw some, economic numbers that came out or just general price numbers, and I thought we'd take a minute and kind of talk about our actual economy. Yeah, so since the start of the Iran war,
Mhm.
numerous things are up. Jet fuel, 70%. Brent crude, 52%. Heating oil, 52%. Even coal, 11%. European natural gas, 36%. Iron ore, up 8%. Which and all this, urea, which is, I believe, goes into fertilizer, up 48%. So, and all this stuff affects how people do their jobs. Anything that needs to be transported anywhere needs diesel fuel. That's up 45%. Uh, and so when you go to your store and your bread now costs 25% more, it's because the diesel fuel to transport it to your grocery store costs more. Fertilizer is up 23% because like a third of the world's fertilizer comes through the Strait of Hormuz. And all of a sudden they can't grow stuff that requires a lot of fertilizer. So they have to change their habits and grow less corn and maybe grow more soybeans or don't grow anything because they can't afford to get the fertilizer. And this will have a ripple effect through everything that's going to catch us here at some point. However, the S&P, the stock market is up 4% since
Booming.
booming, and so that'll tell you what is really making up the stock market. It's not necessarily Walmart or ExxonMobil, although they're still there, but I think it's 40, at least 40% are of the S&P market is tech related, so
Yeah, it's not manufacturing,
Meta, Amazon, not the hardcore manufacturing, not General
not
Motors,
retail.
not Ford, not Walmart. It's Meta, Palantir, Nvidia, and you and I who live normal lives and we use computers as our tools. We still go to the store, we buy food, we drive cars, and all this, and so that this heavy load of expenses, but it's not necessarily but the affecting the stocks in the stock market ought to tell you just how bifurcated we are with the economy. Um, it's there's gonna be I don't wanna say crash, but it's gonna be a shocking moment, I think, at some point where you go to your local gas station and all of a sudden it's 5.25 to fill up, per gallon. or and you go to buy a loaf of bread, and it's twice as much, or you go to buy a case of Diet 7 Up, and all of a sudden it's $18, and you're going, "Whoa, what the hell?"
Mhm.
So, um, anyway, the price of everything going up, and it's not gonna hit us for a little bit yet, but, at least the stock market's going up, so that's good because we need that.
Well, without it, there's nothing.
Right, and you got
Everything
this,
else, yeah, is really going in the wrong direction.
and then you've got the AI boom, which everybody is worried about. Exactly how is this going to affect me personally? That's another area of just angst and
Mhm.
worry is like, okay, is my job okay? How is my company going to handle AI? Are they going to use it as a tool, or are they going to use it to replace me? Nobody quite knows, but
Again, the uncertainty is what's killing us. This increased fear that everybody has regarding their jobs and wondering if they're going to get laid off because of changes because of AI. So, this is just a very scary time for us Americans and actually for the rest of the world, too. And unfortunately, I just wish we had a leader that could actually lead and guide us through it, but he seems to have other priorities. There's no money for healthcare, there's no money for childcare, the economy is being ignored, the prices, the cost of living is being ignored. They just want more money. They want more of I'll reiterate, our money. We are the voters. We are the ones that pay taxes because we know that Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes and others don't. But we pay taxes and they're just taking our money and looking for more and more. And there's so much darn corruption still going on, self dealing. The Trump sons got themselves in a good situation with a big grant for 24 million from the government, from us. And they're just smiling. They're just having a good time. And they aren't even like worried about how it looks.
yeah, that's kind of their strength. I sort of wish I was like Donald Trump, just blithely going on, so happy as a clam with how good he is. Must be peaceful.
Well, he's doing great. He's cleaning up. He's made I don't know how many
Yeah,
billions while in just in this term, and, his family's doing better and all his compadres what do they call it? A kleptocracy?
kleptocracy, yeah.
Yeah. So, I am surprised that as Americans, we have been so mild-mannered about it. We have a few No Kings demonstrations. You have individuals who are speaking out. Maybe, yes, there are more people speaking out now, but my God, what does it take for us to really rise up and take back our country? I'm just kind of surprised. If this were revolutionary times, we'd already have.
Mm. Well, one thing is that I can't speak for everybody, but our lives is still normal. I mean, we see all this stuff, and at least
I think it's you
our
think
day to
it's
day
normal.
life.
I think it's the frog. I'm sorry, I hate that saying, but it's the frog in the pot of boiling water. It's not okay. It's not okay. We've just acclimated ourselves to this craziness,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
we're just
that's a good point.
blithely walking into the future, and we're just crossing our fingers and hoping for the best.
Yeah, that's an excellent analogy. It's just what is gonna be a snap. I keep saying this. I'm sorry, but there's gonna be a snapping point, and I can't quite see what it's gonna be.
I know. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So I think there's gonna be a wave is gonna crash here. We can't quite tell when it's gonna be. It might be sometime over the summer,
Mm,
or into the fall when you're supposed to be harvesting crops, and there's not anywhere near as many crops as you think there are, and then all of a sudden we don't have any feed for cattle, and then we got a lot less beef. We mentioned this last time with
I know.
Argentina. Anyway, keep your head down, I guess.
Right. Right. Well, then the next topic, I really want to make sure we spoke a little bit about the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, the SCOTUS decision regarding the Voting Rights Act. the VRA. And I'm going to give a little background first, and then I actually just want to ask you a question, Mike, get your thoughts. But just for everybody, the Voting Rights Act, LBJ 1965, the Voting Rights Act was designed to help overcome the rampant discrimination against Black voters, mainly in the South. Black voters really predominantly vote Democrat. So if you had a Venn diagram, it's pretty darn close to be completely overlapping. Now, unfortunately, one of the ways that the opponents of the Dems, the GOP, especially in the South, try to tilt things in their favor or put their thumb on the scale, so to speak, is by gerrymandering, which is changing the map coverage of the districts in each state so as to really put more of their voters in a particular district so that they will more than likely win. And or if there's a district that has most of the opponents, maybe splitting it up so that the opponent team, the opponent party doesn't win. I think I saw the term cracking and packing. So you're either packing your voters into one, or you're cracking, you're separating out and diluting people from the other party from a district. Anything you can do in order to make it so that overall more districts are won by the people in your party. Now, they really started to do this gerrymandering, they said, based on race, not just party. And that's where the problem is, because the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, is now saying what really race isn't a problem anymore. And we should not be trying to force or require the minority to be represented in Congress by evaluating whether or not any gerrymandering was done based on race. Again, you can't really have one without the other. If you're a Black person, there's more than likely a good chance that you're a Democrat. It's hard to say exactly whether a gerrymander was done based on what party you were with or whether what race you were. So that's part of the problem. So the change that the court made was to require that if someone wanted to sue because they thought a gerrymander was done on racial grounds, they must show a strong inference of intentional discrimination. And of course, that is a very, very difficult thing to do for anybody to try and prove that. So the result is that now it's nearly impossible to stop states from changing and redrawing these district maps that weaken minority voting power, as long as the state claims they were acting for partisan reasons and not for racial ones. So right after this decision was made, the states, I think about half a dozen states in the South were like the first in line to go ahead and get their districts remapped to give Trump an advantage. So, Mike, my question is, number one, should gerrymandering be outlawed in general? Because I don't care whether you're doing it for partisan reasons or for racial reasons.
Mm.
Isn't it just wrong to do any gerrymandering whatsoever? Isn't it field and patently unfair to change the rules of the game so that your team wins all the time?
Yes.
All right.
I would like to propose in our next production meeting that we do a king for a day meeting. We won't talk about the current events. We'll just say, if you were king for a day or queen for a day, what would you change? You had complete power to change it. And I think you would get a lot of support for outlawing gerrymandering. So this kind of, and this is just one of many, many things that need to be changed. You now have the politicians picking the voters instead of the voters picking the politicians.
Right.
And so I've got to, I'm as cynical as the next guy, but I got to believe that there's a hope that this will actually work in favor of a more normal voting process, I guess. But to answer your question, absolutely, gerrymandering should be illegal. And but this is since the elections are run by the states, it's going to be difficult to implement this sort of stuff at the federal level.
Can we make an amendment to ban any kind of voter suppression?
Sure. But yeah, but the physical act of redrawing districts,
Mm,
we're gonna put a cookie cutter down on the country, and bam, this is the districts. Period. End of discussion. And
mm,
it would work in both ways. You would force Republicans to go into the inner city more and actually advocate for their positions, and then you would force Democrats to go into the suburbs and rural areas and have a Democrat go talk to some farmers in Nebraska and find out what they're up to
right.
and what their problems are, and then have a Republican go into the west side of Chicago and say, "Hey, man, what was going on here with the violence and the guns and everything that we can
Right.
So yeah, I would you put it on the ballot, I'll vote for it." And
Mhm.
I think Thomas Jefferson actually advocated to have the Constitution rewritten on a regular basis. I think he said that a couple times in some of his writings, that every 20 years or so, the Constitution should be open for rewriting and rediscussing. And so if that were to happen, then something like this could be addressed. And then you've got to include term limits on that because these guys, these people get themselves ensconced into their position and then just keep picking their voters instead of the voters picking them.
Right.
I
So, what if you got rid of districts altogether? What if you didn't need districts,
Mhm,
right? And then whatever the totals were, that those are your representatives, and
mhm,
they are there to represent the people of the state, and you as a citizen get to pick whoever you want to reach out to if you have a problem. But
mhm.
basically, those representatives represent everybody in the state.
Yeah, I gotta believe that people in rural areas would get the short shrift on that because there's more people in the cities, but it couldn't be any worse than it is now, I guess.
Okay.
So, if you've got all these people in Chicago, then maybe the people who live down in Dixon, their candidate might not pop the top 10 or so.
Mm,
Or maybe instead of having, the districts by the number of representative you got, you keep the number of representatives, but then you only have like 4
mhm,
districts in the state, and that way the district that includes Chicago would get 5, and then the district that
mhm.
get over by Iowa would also maybe get 5. So you might be able to split it up that way, but
Yeah,
some sort of change and some sort of regulation or law against redistricting on a regular basis,
yeah.
I would definitely be in favor.
Great. Thanks for going through that with me. I just needed to have a discussion to kinda talk through it, but it
I
just seems like, you know, just like, immigration. We can put men in the moon. We should be able to figure this out and create a plan and execute it, a program, and it's just I don't understand why we can't do this.
Hopefully we'll be putting women on the moon at some point here.
Next time.
Yeah. I'm just a big fan of the law of unintended consequences. I would just hang in there. It might not work out as badly as you think. And
Redistricting? Okay.
yeah, yeah, or and should affirmative action exist? Probably not. No. But it has to happen because of the way certain people act. But maybe it's a step in the right direction. I don't know.
Right.
Race is still an issue. It's less of an issue than it used to be. If they say race is not an issue anymore, that's BS, but it's less of an issue. So maybe it'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
We will.
Mhm. So don't be surprised, Mike.
Don't be surprised if we actually have boots on the ground in Iran. It just seems like the momentum is going that way. It's just what's gonna piss off Trump? Something will piss him off, and then he's like, "Okay, we're gonna go." So I can't quite tell what that is, but anyway, here's what I saw. Alright, so I don't know, I saw a couple things in the last few days. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not.
Not quite sure what stage or how bad, but I saw that in a couple places. So I know in Israel they have universal health care. That ought to tell you everything you need to know. Like we give them $18 billion a year, and they have universal health care system, and we don't. So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what stage he's got. Maybe it's gonna be handled, but he's been diagnosed. I don't know, you guys should maybe get on YouTube and see Scott Jennings on CNN. I don't know if you, guys watch, I forget the name of the show on CNN where, it's a pretty hardcore discussion they got, but they've had this new kid. His name is Adam Mockler, and I've seen him on Twitter, and he's pretty good. He's actually from Illinois, I think, and he's now on CNN on this debate team, and he got Scott Jennings, who is this smug, smarmy, punk ass GOP guy, and Jennings actually dropped the F bomb. It's like, get your effing hand out of my face, and Mockler was all over him. I don't think
Wow.
anything. I don't think anything will come of it, but it was kind of fun to see this smarmy MAGA guy at least lose it from this kid. He's in his early 20s.
But he's very good. I've seen him. He's very articulate.
Mhm.
He has good, clear arguments. It was Newsnight with Abby Phillip.
Yep, and they're pretty hardcore on there, and so it was nice to, well, I don't know. He was making Mockler was making a lot of good points, and Jennings just kind of lost it there for a minute. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently I'm just reading AI now, sorry. Apparently, he was pressing Jennings to name a specific political concession that the US had gained from the war so far, and they really couldn't.
Yeah,
But
he's
we're
right.
winning.
He's right. What exactly is better? I mean, they still have the uranium. They're still got the same regime. They're still they haven't lost any land. The Republicans keep talking about the Navy and the Air Force that they decimated. Well, guess what? All these planes were stuff they stole from Iraq in the 60s. They're all old planes. Their Navy is upgraded to all these swift boat type things. Their armaments are badass, drones and stuff, which they're
Mhm.
manufacturing like crazy. Yeah, there's nothing that is, and now they're a power. They're gonna take over the Middle East, and so he's right, man. There's no concession. It's right. Jennings finally lost it.
Yes.
And no, you know what? I do have a don't be surprised. All right, I'm gonna go out on a limb. This is gonna take 6 months to come to fruition, but I'm gonna say during the election, the midterms, I'm assuming they're not going to be canceled because of martial law, that if the Democrats get 4 seats in the Senate, they need 5 to actually take over. If they get 5, I'm going to say that John Fetterman, Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, will flip and become a Republican and let the Republicans keep the Senate. So I'm not going to predict that, but I'm going to say don't be surprised if Fetterman switches parties and goes to the GOP after the election. If it looks like the Democrats are going to take control, which is still maybe 50-50. I don't know what Kelshi is saying about this, but
Yeah, it was 49-51.
right. So I'm going to say if it looks like the Democrats are going to take it, that Fetterman will flip and go to the GOP and let the GOP keep it.
I think that's a good bet, actually. I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, and you know what?
Yeah?
Do we got a few minutes? We forgot to talk about King Charles. King Charles was in the country. He's a winner. I think he was on a charm offensive, I think is the term they use, and he told a bunch of funny jokes. He was classy. He was attempting to, I guess, mend some fences. Maybe I don't think the fences are mendable. To be honest with you, but he was
To
trying to
repair relations, yeah.
repair relations, calm Donald down for a few minutes to stop
Yeah,
attacking Europe.
Donald was a little
Told a few funny jokes and was we'll have to give him the winner.
okay.
Jesse Waters from Fox News apparently got escorted away from Queen Camilla because he told some vulgar joke. So hey, good
My
job Fox,
god.
good job Fox News. But I'm gonna give the winner of the week to King Charles.
Okay, so now that you've picked a winner, you have to pick a loser.
It's just too easy, man. Oh man, Shevitz here. Loser, 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 loser. It's just too cliche to go with Donald Trump being the loser. I'm gonna go with Jennings. Jennings, loser of the week. Smarmy ass guy, and finally lost it because he was getting killed with facts by Adam
Filled with
Mockler.
facts by a 23-year-old
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know how old Jennings
podcaster.
is, but
Yay.
yeah, a 23-year-old kid just kicking his ass there on CNN. So Scott Jennings, the loser.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's all we have for today. Please follow us, of course. And if you know anybody who would enjoy our podcast, please go ahead and share it with them.
Yes, thank you for listening to episode 7 of the M&M Debrief.
All right. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.